Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LaBerge Casino. Ronnie Rance here with you alongside TK, Tommy Christ, and TK coming to us from Court Street Cafe in historic downtown Port Allen. I'm coming to you from the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios. Today on Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LaBerge Casino, we're going to get into the two big games over the weekend. Of course, LSU's win on Saturday, the Saints' loss on Sunday. Which was more important, which had the bigger impact on the season. And we'll talk mainly about the two quarterbacks in these contests. Also, some NFL games of note tonight for you gamblers, two games on the docket. And Tommy will break those down for you. You got Titans at Bills, you got Vikings at Eagles. Both of them should be good ball games, particularly that Vikings at Eagles game. A lot of interest there, besides the fact that it's NFC matchups. The Saints play the Vikings in London. Two game, after the Carolina game this week. So we'll get a chance to see the Vikings. It will be a Saints opponent 2 weeks from now. But let's go back to Saturday, Tommy. LSU, much like the game against Florida State, opening game through the first, 2.5, 3 quarters, not much going on offense. Didn't really look the part. Disappointment, fell behind. But unlike that, when they came from behind and pulled away in the end against Mississippi State and got a big must-have victory.
Yeah, well, it was a conference win. It's always great to win a conference game, your conference opener. Had a good crowd on hand, and the offense just seems to be in sync like one series and then out of sync the next. And play calling. I mean, it's easy to call plays from the sofa. I know that, but Jaden Daniels. A lot of talk that he's tucking it, running too fast. He's not going through his progressions. And, and some of that's very obvious to everybody. You don't have to be a football coach to see some of that. But the bottom line is numbers are pretty darn good. And he found a way to get his team a win in a conference game that they were an underdog. They were a home underdog. So, I mean, there are a lot of positives to come from it. I'm curious to see what Coach Kelly says today in his press conference, because there's still some things to work on. Still had some movement on the offensive line positions, guys jumping around, and hopefully they can settle in. They're 4 touchdown favorites this week against New Mexico, so maybe you can iron out a few more of those things with the offense. And there's a lot of weapons, there's a lot of talent. Running backs are running hard, and the keys, the offensive line, and then what Jaden Daniels does. And bottom line is he won a home game in a conference play as an underdog. So you gotta start with that.
Well, when you look at the schedule and you try to get LSU to a winning record and bowl eligibility and all that kind of stuff, and let's just say we're trying to get them to 7 wins, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out a way to get them to 7 wins so that they can cover the over/under 6.5 on the season. Plus, if you get to 7 wins, if you lose the bowl game, you still finish with a winning record. It's a minimal thing. But last year, you finished with a losing record because you lost the bowl game. But so if we're trying to get to 7 wins, which is going to require them to go 4-4 in the SEC. This was a game they had to have because you're at home, Mississippi State, 3-point game is sort of a coin flip. You had to have this one. Had they lost this game, you could see this season really spiraling out of control. Yeah, you should get a win at Auburn, but then you looked ahead and you see Florida in the Swamp is tougher. The whole league, every game is a coin flip game, but you're probably going to be a dog in a lot of those games. So this was one you had to have if you have hopes of sugar plums in your head of going 4-4. And credit, it was ugly, but credit Daniels, credit Kelly, credit this team with not panicking, not freaking out when it looked bad in the second half and it looked like, oh my God, here we go, they're going to blow this one. And then they all of a sudden got things going. Daniels' numbers, 22 of 37 for 210 yards, 1 touchdown through the air, had a 68.9 QBR rating. But the most important thing in that statistic, Tommy, 0 interceptions. He didn't have any interceptions, and he rushed the ball as well. On the ground, had 80, 90 yards or something like that, rushing the football. And that is, actually rushing 16 carries, 93 yards, 5.8 average, had a long of 20. So you throw in another nearly 100 yards on the ground rushing the football, and now that's over 300 yards total offense with no turnovers. And so, hey, however you got to do it, it may not be Joe Burrow standing in the pocket, slinging it down the field, but if I'm getting over 300 yards total offense out of Daniels without a turnover, you should win most of those games.
Yeah, that's a good recipe, good formula. I mean, Daniels definitely likes to run the football. And, is there a time or two when maybe he should have got it out of his hand instead of running? You could say that a lot about a lot of quarterbacks, It's that fine line of what gives you the chance to be more successful. And I think now the opponents going forward know that they're going to have to respect the fact that Daniels will take off and run. And if he's averaging 5 yards a carry the other night, that's not a bad number. So it's a threat to the defense. It forces the defense to be prepared for more. He did fumble.
Chance corrected me. Yeah, Daniels did fumble. I forgot about the one fumble.
No interceptions, but he did fumble. That's correct.
In the game.
Thank you, Chance.
LSU, he's our fact checker, our private fact checker. LSU did have over 200 yards of offense on the ground, 38 carries, 206 yards. They averaged over 5 yards a carry on the ground, over 400 yards of total offense between throwing and rushing the football. It's a good number against a good defense in Mississippi State. I think that's a pretty solid, salty group that they have. Listen, I'm okay with Daniel. Look, it's clear that in year 4 or whatever, as a starting college quarterback, Tommy, that he is who he is. He's not going to change. They're not making him into some pocket passer who can, survey the field and take the fourth option. I'm okay with that. Have 2 options. There's one. There's another. It's not there. Tuck it and run. As long as the chains are moving and as long as you're getting positive yardage, we can't worry about how it happens. It's kind of like we're spoiled with Joe Burrow, we're spoiled with Drew Brees. These guys are arguably the greatest to ever do it in college, the greatest to ever do it in the pros. And now our minds and our eyes are messed up, and we expect that out of everybody else who's just a regular human being. And it's not going to be that way. So we have to get over ourselves and realize, hey, as long as the chains are moving, as long as we're picking up first downs, as long as we're scoring points, doesn't matter. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to have to be done the way it's done. And obviously, Daniels is a runner first and a passer second. He missed so many opportunities for players downfield. When the pressure comes, he panics. You can just almost see him not knowing what to look at, when it's around him. And that's okay as long as he takes care of the football and moves the ball, pick up 4 yards, 5 yards, as opposed to forcing it, which is what we saw on Sunday.
Well, and he's glad to be at LSU and not Arizona State, who fired Herm Edwards after an embarrassing home loss to Eastern Michigan the other night. So he's in a better spot. And here's the other thing too, Ronnie. He's going to get better every week. He's going to learn every week. He's going to get coached up. I mean, you didn't have to coach up Joe Burrow much in the 2019 season. About halfway through, you just said, Joe, go ahead. Drew Brees, you didn't have to coach him up too much highlight of his career. But Jayden Daniels is still making progress, getting better, learning from mistakes, and that can only help LSU going forward.
By the way, before we talk a little New Orleans Saints, I want to make an announcement. We'll have a graphic up for you on Wednesday and have it up for the rest of the month, really. But we've got mark it on your calendars. If you're any golfers out there, you're any businesses that want to be involved in any way, shape, or form as a sponsor or attend the party the night before, we'll have individual tickets available for that. But on October the 31st is a Monday. That's Halloween. We are going to have the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame golf tournament. It's going to be a celebrity event. It's going to be at University Club in Baton Rouge, 2 miles from LaBerge Casino. It starts at 10 o'clock. Registration breakfast begins at 8. We'll introduce all the celebs at 9:45, and then you'll play golf at 10 o'clock. We'll have lots of food and drink on the course. We're going to have celebrities playing. We'll have celebrities that will be traveling around the course, taking photos and interacting with golfers. So that is coming up. Go to lasportshall.com. We'll have that posted here in about an hour where you can register and get your team and all that. And if you have any questions, of course, reach out to me. We'll have it on the brochure and all. But it's Relief Windows is our title sponsor. Special thanks to Brandon Holly and them once again being our sponsor each and every year of the event. It's going to be awesome, Tommy. The night before, October 30th, which is a Sunday, we're having a rooftop party at L'Auberge from 6 to 9 with food and drink and all the celebs and all that. And all the golfers get 2 free tickets for each golfer to come to the event. And we'll even have some individual tickets available if you just want to attend the event on Sunday night. So we'll have plenty more info on that, but just wanted to let you know, mark your calendars, October 30th and 31st, the Celebrity Fall Hall of Fame Golf Classic. Going to be a great, great time. Okay, so Sunday. So we get through Saturday. We survive in advance with LSU. The Tigers covered. I know that went against your money line pick of Mississippi State. You thought the Bulldogs, like a lot of people, ESPN Game Day, everybody except their celebrity picker had Mississippi State winning the game. But the Tigers showed a lot of moxie in the second half, picked up a big win. Then when we move on to Sunday, I had a feeling, and I didn't bet the game, and I told you that was my plan. I wasn't going to bet LSU. I wasn't going to bet the Saints. Just wanted to pull for a victory, as ugly as it might be. The Saints were trying to win for the 8th time in a row over Tampa Bay in the regular season. They were trying to win for the 5th time in a row under Tom Brady. And I just couldn't imagine a scenario where Tom Brady was going to lose 5 games in a row to the same franchise. Like, it's just, I don't care, New England, Tampa, it doesn't matter. It's the greatest to ever do it. He's still, even though he was missing a couple offensive linemen and a receiver, he's still Tom Brady and has weapons. But the Saints absolutely, Tommy, blew an opportunity for a victory in this game. It was 3-3 in the third. Neither team was doing anything on offense. Credit the defenses for that. But the Saints just absolutely gave this one away. And then once it started to go south with penalties and stuff like that, Jameis Winston showed his old Tampa colors. And that Jameis Winston had a 13.8 rating and a 55 QBR and a 55.8 rating, had 3 interceptions. Like, that's just not going to cut it.
No, it's not. I mean, they reported he was playing with some fractures in his back. And once they reported that, you could almost do the eyeball and see that he wasn't as fluid, or he wasn't normal. He's in a little pain or discomfort, whatever you want to say. I'm sure they shot him up a little bit. And then a couple of times he held the ball way too long. He was not a good Jameis Winston yesterday. Defense played great. They frustrated Brady. I mean, he's throwing tablets all over the place. I mean, a lot of bad body language out of Tom Brady yesterday for lots of reasons. And part of that was the Saints defense, but then the offense just could never get going. Winston never got going. Of course, everybody's yelling for, get Andy Dalton in there. I don't know what will happen going forward. But the other thing is, you had that brawl, which actually Brady started that brawl, because he started popping off to Lattimore. And then Fournette got in within earshot, and him and Lattimore said something. And Fournette kind of made a push move. He didn't punch. A push move towards Lattimore. Lattimore responded. Then all of a sudden, here comes Mike Evans, who's one of the biggest jerks in the history of the NFL, and he comes in and pushes the heck out of Lattimore. Bench is empty for more than a minute, and it was a little skirmish. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like the momentum jumped on Tampa because of that. But it wasn't an ugly scene, but the NFL doesn't want that happening. I think Evans should be punished for more than being ejected from that game. That'll come out today if anything's going to happen. Fournette should have got something. Lattimore's Lattimore. He's going to jaw jack and talk with the best of them. So the Saints, there was no offense. And when you don't have offense and the other team's struggling, you don't take advantage. It's a game they should have won. I bet the under, the 43.5, and I'm in the rocking chair for a long time. Then all of a sudden they start scoring like crazy. Now, turned out it still hit, but that was a weird scene. But that's Buccaneers and Saints, and Saints that one got away. You might look at it and say, hey, they got one, against Atlanta. They maybe shouldn't have got, and now they lose one. That's the NFL, and like I said, there are 19 teams that are 1-1 in the NFL now, and there could be 2 more tonight, depending on how the doubleheader goes. So we'll see.
So there was there was just unbelievable mistakes by the Saints, particularly on the penalties. But look, let me get back to Jameis. I know we heard after the game that he had some cracked ribs or whatever, fractures, hairline fractures, whatever you want to call it. But that has nothing to do with the decision making. I get it. Physically, he may not have been able to be accurate, or physically he may not be able to throw the ball as well as he'd like. But the decision making on who to throw to is still atrocious. I mean, Dan Orlovsky on ESPN this morning, showed a number of plays where, there's crossing routes, guys are open, guys are completely open in the flat, nobody's guarding him. Instead, he chooses the ball to, throw it into double coverage or to take the deep shot when he shouldn't, or whatever the case may be. Those are things that I'm shocked and disappointed in. And that's what we all were drinking the punch on over the last couple of years, was that had changed, that he spent a year behind Drew Brees and he learned from the master and he learned from Sean Payton. And then last year, he had some success early on, somewhat managing before he got hurt, and he learned from Sean Payton and he watched. And so he had 2 years of tutelage, really, under one of the best coaches and programs in the NFL. And so we thought now he was fixed. Well, he's not. He's not. And I mean, this is remedial stuff for an NFL quarterback that's getting paid millions of dollars and has been in the league now, 8 years or something. Like, the fact that you can't read defenses and the fact that you can't check your own ego and desires to want to just sling it in there and not just take what the defense gives you, like, that tells me, Tommy, that you're not going to be fixed. That this Jameis Winston situation isn't going to work out. Now, he may be the best option for the New Orleans Saints at the moment with what they have on their roster, but he is not going to lead them to the promised land. He has proven and he's shown now that, no, he hasn't changed. He might be a hair better, but he hasn't changed. And that's disappointing, because we were all drinking the punch, hoping that he was different, and clearly he's not.
Well, and we talked about it. The Saints are going to go as Jameis Winston goes. I mean, if he would have had a bang-up year, Saints would have a bang-up year. If he struggles, like Chance said, he's the same Jameis Winston he's always been. And that's not going to be a good recipe. Andy Dalton's a 9-time Pro Bowler. Is that a better option? Well, that's for Dennis Allen to decide. He's the head coach. But, it just made some mistakes. Chance makes a good point. When they were going in, they were up 3-0, and they going in. They in the red zone, and Ingram fumbles, and they lose it at about the 10. I mean, they're about to go up 10-0 if they can punch that in the end zone, and then who knows what happens? We don't really know, but that was a critical fumble that really hurt the team.
The Mark Ingram fumble was atrocious. They were rolling on offense. I mean, Mark Ingram averaged 6 yards a carry in the game. I mean, he was running. They were moving. I mean, it was a killer fumble. How about fourth down, 12 men on the field on a punt? How about the terrible call by the officials on the unnecessary roughness on the targeting, when actually the defensive back's head got hit by the receiver? He had crossed his face and the receiver hit his helmet. Like, and look, those targeting calls or whatever, the helmet to helmet stuff, Tommy, that is so hard to call by the naked eye, right? Unless it's just the old school spear, and a guy goes in and he's on the ground and he spears him with the head or something like that out of frustration. Like, that's easy. But these full speed helmet to helmet, calls where guys are running 20 miles an hour into each other and there's other people in the way between the official and you. And that's almost impossible for them to make the call. Like, that should be something that comes from the booth, where they see it in a replay and go, clearly the guy launched, into him or something like that. How these guys think they can make that call and then be wrong. Like, if you're going to make the call, it has to be an egregious, obvious type of situation. It can't be a 50-50 ball. If it's a 50-50 anything, keep it in your pocket. Whether it's, I'm not sure if it's a hold or not, like, it's got to be in your mind, 100%, and then I throw the flag. If it's anything but, then just don't. And that play was a third down. They were getting off the field. Saints were getting the ball back, and then they went to points after a ridiculous call.
Yeah, I've always thought it was very hard to call. I'd say, 40 or 50% of them are very obvious. Some of it's blatant. But, if you got cornerbacks coming up, and he's going to put his shoulder into the thighs of the receiver or the running back, whoever's coming that way. And then all of a sudden that receiver lowers his head, like the case with Tampa the other day. You can't penalize – you almost got to penalize the receiver guy right there for lowering the crown of his helmet. And, again, to the naked eye, I get it. But like Chance says, in college they're now reviewing targeting. Sometimes they'll pull it off the board. They got to do that in the NFL too, because that hurt the Saints a lot. And, they got to get – and it's happened to other teams too. They got to do a better job of getting that right.
And, that was the thing, is that they overcame the 12 they did, there was just too many dumb penalties in the second half. Some of them not their fault, but there was too many dumb penalties that went against the Saints that in a close game affected. Then you throw in the implosion on the Ingram fumble and the implosion by Winston down the stretch. Now, the good news is the Saints defense is legit. I mean, Tom Brady was 18 of 34 for 190 yards, but Tom Brady didn't have any interceptions. Now, he did have the fumble on the center exchange because he doesn't have a center and, whatever. Maybe it's a different tail size or whatever the case may be. But they kept Tom Brady in check. They kept this Tampa Bay team in check offensively. The defense is legit for the Saints. When they get Kamara back, they're going to have a more dynamic guy, but Jameis has to be willing to just take the 5 yards, throw it to the back, take the hitch route, throw it to the receiver. It doesn't have to be down the field. When he threw that interception in the end zone, Tommy, in the double coverage, he had Michael Thomas crossing 10 yards downfield, completely wide open underneath. Your number one receiver on your team that's making $18 million a year. Why aren't you looking for number 13 every single time, and then you look for the next guy after that? But he was completely wide open, and Jameis Winston just, Tampa Bay 2018 jumped in his body, and he wanted to throw the ball, 60 yards, and there was never a receiver open on that play.
Well, he's not very accurate on his deep balls. He just lets it fly. I mean, he doesn't throw the receiver open. I mean, if the safety's coming from Jameis's left, he's got to throw it to the right and let the receiver go get it. I mean, he's very inaccurate with the long ball. He just lets it fly, and he's hoping, instead of putting it in a spot where either his guy's going to get it or it's going to hit the turf. So, Winston didn't have a good game. There's no question about it. He's got to fix all of that immediately. If the Saints are gonna, be a good, solid team this year. Long way to go, and you can argue there should be 1-1 no matter how you slice it. Team 1-1 is not a bad spot to be. Better than 0-2. So they got to try to get better, and should win. They're road favorite against the Carolina Panthers this coming Sunday. 3 points, in case you're wondering. So then that line may move a little bit. We'll see. But there were a lot of social media people saying, is Andy Dalton the better option? Well, that's up to Pete Carmichael and Sean and Dennis Allen.
Well, look, they didn't sign Andy Dalton to supplant Jameis Winston as a starting quarterback. But if they are as frustrated as Saints fans are at Jameis Winston's play in Game 2, and really, part of game, first 3 quarters of Game 1, will they use this injury as an opportunity to see what Andy Dalton can do? That's the cover. Like, hey, you're not 100% healthy. We don't feel like you give us the best chance to win if you're not, your ribs are hurting. That said, Jameis Winston's going to want to play. Jameis Winston's the guy. He played hurt in the fourth quarter last week and got it done. So, we'll see who wins out on that. Clearly, Andy Dalton's going to want to play, but does Carmichael and Allen, do they look at this tape and throw the clipboard like Tom Brady did on the sidelines and say, this is ridiculous, this is inexcusable, there were 10 plays that Jameis Winston should have done something different, and we believe Andy Dalton is not going to make those mistakes? We'll see. This would be a good game to do it in. Carolina on the road, you're a favorite. They're not a very good team. This would be a good one for Andy Dalton, but also no NFL franchise wants to open up Pandora's box on who's the real starting quarterback if you don't have to. And Jameis Winston doesn't seem like at this stage in his career that would probably end up being a good thing if all of a sudden he's in a quarterback battle. You may lose him mentally.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, it'd be an interesting week of practice for the Saints. We're going to want to watch that injury report. They're forced to come out with that thing's a league rule. and we'll see how they lift Winston on Wednesday and Thursday. That could be important going forward.
By the way, the Giants beat the Carolina Panthers 19-16. Giants now 2-0 for the first time in 6 years. They end up kicking a game-winning 56-yard field goal with 3.5 to play in that game to win it. It just seems like, Tommy, I don't know if the footballs are different or what, but like these kickers, man, like, 55-60 has become like 50-55 a few years ago. Like, there's teams are not shying away from kicking 55 to 60-yard field goals, and teams aren't, and kickers aren't shying away from making them.
No, I mean these guys are really good, and if they're not good, they'll get somebody else in a hurry around the league. But you want it to be automatic. But like you said, when you get beyond 50, now in the case of beyond 55, I mean you're presenting a different part of the game. Now the flip side of that is if you miss, pretty good field position for the other team, but it's an offensive game. I mean, kind of like how Mama used to say, I don't care if you get it on my 30 or your 30, we still got to stop you, and we'll see. But those kickers, man, they're pretty much, and then 40 yards and in, they're pretty darn accurate. I know every now and then they miss.
Well, last week was weird, yeah.
Yeah, but
last week was weird, but that was an aberration. By the way, speaking of kickers, how about Cowboys? Cowboys kick a 50-yard field goal at the gun to beat the Bengals. Game was 17-all. They get the ball back with 3 minutes to go down the field, and kick the field goal to beat the Bengals. The Bengals now 0-2 on the year after being in the Super Bowl. So I'm sure Joe Burrow's not in a very good mood. Tell us a little bit about tonight, Tommy. The Titans at the Bills, the Vikings at the Eagles. For those gamblers out there tonight, what to look for?
Yeah, well, tonight you got the Titans at the Bills. Bills are a 10-point favorite, over and under 47.5. Shortly after that, you got the Vikings at the Eagles. The Eagles are a 2.5-point favorite. So a couple of games for you to watch and get involved with tonight.
All right. By the way, Chance pointing out that Rice knocked off UL Lafayette 33-21. The Raging Cajuns, Tommy, were 11-point favorite. Why do I don't know. I don't know if that's – I feel like that number was right. But anyway, they were favored for sure to knock off Rice.
I'll look that up.
Yeah, so it was 14-13. The Cajuns on top of Rice on the road at halftime. And then in the second half, Rice outscored the Cajuns 21-7. So that was definitely a shocker, to say the least. It was 27-21 with Cajuns had just scored a touchdown to make it 27-21 with 9 to play in the fourth quarter. And then Rice went ahead and scored another touchdown late with about 3 to play.
You're right. Cajuns were 11.5-point favorite at game time. And then how about the Green Wave going on the road, knocking off Kansas State? That was a nice win for the Tulane team.
17-10, Tulane knocked off Kansas State. Tulane was a 14-point dog. That was one of the picks that Hunter McCann gave you on Sports Shorts Daily. I don't know, Hunter I think went 3-0 this weekend, Tommy. I think he had Tulane covering, and of course they won the game. He had Oklahoma covering; they covered easily against Nebraska, and then he had Oregon. And Oregon killed BYU. So Hunter went 3-0 on Saturday on his Sports Shorts Daily picks. He's now 8-4 on his college football picks through the first 3 weeks of the season. So make sure you tune in on Sports Shorts Daily Saturday mornings from 10 to noon on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. All right, we'll be back on Wednesday. We'll talk a little bit more. We'll have Brian Kelly's press conference to talk about. We'll have Monday Night Football. We'll hopefully by then find out a little bit more about Jameis Winston's injury and if he'll be the quarterback as well on Sunday at Carolina. And we'll know more about New Mexico as well. So we'll see you then for Wednesday for more Sports Shorts Daily. Tell us before we get out of here, Tommy, about Court Street Cafe.
Hey, Monday through Saturday, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Jason and the staff do a great job. Again, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Got some lunch specials, some dinner specials. They moved steak night to Saturday night. That was very popular the last couple of weeks. But if you connect on Facebook and Instagram, Jason and the staff here do a great job posting the specials and whatever else is going on. Got some other events coming up here that the Court Street Cafe will be involved in. 2 minutes the other side of the Mississippi River Bridge. You exit to the right to Port Allen, second traffic light. Take a right, 100 yards on your right. You'll see the patio and plenty of parking available at Court Street Cafe, 805 Court Street in Port Allen. Connect on Facebook and Instagram. Check them out real soon.
All right, we'll see you on Wednesday, everybody. Until then, have a great one.
Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Sports Shores hosted by Ronnie Rance. We'll talk to you later.